Anyone ever found a body? What's that like? My granddad was a few months shy of 90 and still lived by himself. He was pretty spry. My mom called him every morning. One day he didn't answer, so she called me to go over and check on him. They lived about 40 minutes away and I lived about 5 minutes away. I let myself in and found him in his easy chair holding his phone. He was cold. My dad showed up in about 20 minutes and we both cried. I called the police and they came in, checked it out and did us a favor of calling the funeral home we asked. My dad said he was talking with him about 9 PM the night before and said he was sounding groggy. So he said goodnight. And granddad must have rested and passed. He was a great guy. Edit. I am overwhelmed with all the kind comments and awards. I truly thank you all. Went to check on my uncle because he'd not been heard from. I knew before I got the front door open that he was dead by the smell. He was in his recliner. Drank himself to an early grave. Found my dad dead, heart attack, one morning as a 7-year-old. Then when I was 8 I found my grandfather dead, fell, hit his head into tub full of water, one morning. One night I was out walking my dog along a country road where a ditch accompanied the road either side. As I was walking my dog started going mad trying to tug away from his lead to this ditch, so I wanted to see what it was. It ended up being a corpse, so I called the cops. They found out that a gang murder happened in a city about 40 miles away and one of the members thought a small village would be a great place to put it. A full family, father, mother plus 2 kids, dead in an upside down car on a dark road. I was at the shooting range once, my first time actually, and an older gentleman shot himself in the stall closest to the door. Everyone had to walk right past his body to evacuate. Gruesome. It looks more disturbing in real life than the movies and everything moved more slowly once I saw it. I was just getting comfortable with my weapon when they called a ceasefire and I stood there wondering what had happened. Suddenly it was calls of everybody get out. Now. Go. Go. Pretty terrifying when you can't initially see what's on either side of you because of the lane barriers and you're wondering what the hell happened. So bad we're evacuating. Then just really sad to realize what happened. There was a kid there about 10 years old with his dad and brother. Hate it. My friend from school crashed his van outside my house one night coming back from a party. He was 15 and driving illegally. It was about 1 AM and I heard the crash and was first on the scene. I didn't have a cell phone, so I wasn't the one who called 911. He died on impact and seeing his body was the moment I no longer felt like a kid. I used to work at this sports bar, so it wasn't uncommon for people to leave their car in parking lot for a day or two. After having a couple days off I come into work and this car that was there a day before my weekend started is still parked in the same spot. I tell me boss about it and go check it out. As I get close to the car the smell hits me like a truck. Some guy committed suicide in his car during a heat wave in the middle of summer. I call the cops and tell my boss. When the police arrived I was asked to make a statement. While I was doing this the paramedics showed up to remove the body. They got this bloated rotten corpse halfway out of the vehicle when it just fell apart, splattering on the pavement. I'll never forget that freaking smell. Our town's baseball field's for Little League is in front of a small fenced row of woods with an interstate on the other side. One hot day in July, like 90 all week, everyone at the game started smelling something awful. A couple of the dads and coaches went to go look and there was a dead guy on the interstate side of the fence row. I guess a trucker broke down and was walking for help and died of heat stroke. I was playing baseball and never actually saw, but still a crazy day. In November of 2004 I had a very best friend who lived 3 blocks from me. We were both managers of the same restaurant, but I had recently graduated from college and had started my career path but still worked with him on weekends and school vacations. One freezing cold Monday night, the restaurant called saying he hadn't shown up for work. I had a key, so my roommate and I walked over. Upon entering his apartment, he was dead on the couch after taking more than one bottle of Ambien and a handle of vodka. I don't remember all the details of what I remember from the scene or what it looked like. I'm paying a lot of money in therapy to forget. I worked at a retirement home for about a year. More specific, at the dementia part of the house, and we had one man who every day was worried sick for his wife, who has been dead for 8 years. On his birthday both of his daughters showed up and talked and showed a lot of pictures. He didn't remember his daughters but he recognized his wife. Tears of joy, he watched pictures and told stories. The morning after, when I went to wake him up, he was dead. He had a big smile on his face and it was somehow very, very beautiful. Got back to my GF's house after doing some grocery shopping for her mom. And when we went inside, something was off. Found her older brother with slit wrists in the tub just about the time their mom pulled into the driveway. It was unpleasant. Not me, but my dad did. He was fishing and found a guy floating in the Kentucky River. He at first thought it was a dead cow until he paddled closer. The man was badly decomposed and bloated. Our local small town sheriff's department used my dad's boat to transport the body. My dad had trouble sleeping for a while afterward and sold the boat a few weeks later. My grandpa found a body decades earlier in the same area and my uncle did too. It's believed the guy my dad found accidentally fell in while high on meth. Came across a drunk driving accident. Probably happened a minute or two before we drove up to it since no one else was there. And it was on the highway. 65 miles per hour speed limit. It was awful. Called the cops and went to see if we could help. But they were clearly dead. One had been ejected out of the windshield and was lying on the highway. The driver turned out to be 20 years old. Really sad. Edit. Just added a few more details like the driver's age. My manager and I were talking once. Bonding over our shared experiences living in South Africa. I was born on Durban. She in Johannesburg. She told me that when she was 12/13 a boy in the year below her went missing. Parents suspected he had been kidnapped and filled a missing person straight away. The school was a tremendous help. Posters. Assemblies. Overall tougher security. It was the middle of the summer. And the worry grew as the days went by. Almost 2 weeks after his disappearance. His father is checking the garden, for your information. A lot of gardens are more like large plots of land. Unlike the cubes of grass I'm used to here in the UK. He gets to the wall at the other side of the garden and the smell hit him. My manager told me that they suspected the boy had been playing and climbed over the wall. Tripped and hit his dead. I can't imagine what a body must look and smell like in the open. For 2 weeks. In scorching weather. But it's not something a parent should ever have to witness. I found my dad after he hung himself. It was obviously extremely traumatizing and has taken a lot of therapy. I still get triggered if a movie shows a hanging scene. But I'm doing a lot better. Was with my mom. We were doing an occupancy check because this guy's hadn't paid his rent. This behavior was normal for the people who live on the property, so we go in and see if the apartment was empty. I go to the back room and he's dead in bed. Found 4. All at once. Well, actually, the 4th body had been jammed so far under the front passenger seat that I didn't see it. Wear your damned seat belts. People. I used to work in self-storage, and when I left, a buddy of mine took over the property I used to manage. We took a weekend off from our respective jobs to go to Vegas a few years ago. He lived on site in a company apartment. When we got back late in the evening, he walked around his property as is pretty typical. There was a car parked with someone in it. He knocked on the window and got no response. He called me and told me about it, and as I was close by, I told him I'd be right there. As I got close to the car, I could smell death. The car was locked and all the windows were fogged up inside. It was obvious that the person inside was dead. He called the police and they responded with fire and medical. Yeah, the guy was dead. Reviewing the security cameras showed him come in and park there about 36 hours earlier. It was an overdose. I don't think it was ever determined to be accidental or suicide. Found my uncle dead in his apartment. I learned that day what a rotting body smells like. The answer is rancid fish. I was walking to school one day when I noticed a car in an alleyway with a broken windshield that had a big brownish stain. When I walked up I saw dead guy. Turned out he was shot in the head the night before. The blood looked browned because he had been there for a while. I've seen 2 people die, one hit by a car and the other in a workplace accident, and it's something I hope to never have to see again. I didn't exactly find a body, but I had a neighbor in my apartment building jump. I didn't know what happened at first, as I just saw a man lying on the sidewalk and I couldn't see much from my first floor apartment. I worked in human services with homeless folks and saw that he wasn't wearing shoes. So my first thought was that he was intoxicated and he either fell or passed out. I ran outside worried that he was overdosing. As soon as I ran out the front door, I saw that on the other side of his head was a massive pool of blood and I realized what happened. He was gasping for air with wide open eyes when I got to him. His pulse was weak. My GF was already calling 911, so I tried to gauge responsiveness and keep him conscious. But the entire time, he felt cold. I remember thinking that his skin felt like rubber. Someone else came outside and did CPR when we couldn't find a pulse anymore. He was dead by the time EMTs arrived. All of that really haunted me. But what bothered me most was that 4 weeks after I would often hear women in the apartment gossiping about it and talking about how they watched it all happen from their balconies. The thought that so many people watched him jump and didn't even try to help bothers me more than anything else. I think I was 7 or 8. Mom and I went to visit friends about an hour north of where we lived in Miami. And they had a ton of land. My friend and I were playing in the forest when he said we should go check out an old shack nearby. We hiked over to the shack, which was just over their fence line, and as we got near, it sounded like static on a radio. The door was closed, and the windows were black, but looked like they were moving. We went to the door, and it stunk next to the shack. We hit the door, trying to open it, and the noise inside got louder. He kicked the door, and it wouldn't budge. I went over to a window and pushed it open, and thousands of flies came out, along with the worst smell my little nose had ever smelled. We peeked inside and there was a body by the door and a dead dog next to it. We ran back to his house to tell his parents, and they didn't believe us at first, until we mentioned the shack. They knew the hobo that lived there and called the police. From what I remember, his dog died first, and he drank himself to death and died against the door. I can still hear the buzzing noise whenever I think about it. I walked in on my brother hanging himself from our bunk bed when I was 13. He got into an argument with my stepdad about something stupid. I apparently got him down by myself. I don't remember that part, and my stepdad gave him CPR and the like while I called 911. He was life flighted from the high school football field, and I am very thankful to have my big brother around today. Saw a contractor at work get smoked by an electrical arc from switchgear connected directly to the power company. He was wiping sweat from his eyes when the switchgear arced. His left foot was still in his boot, but that was about all that was left. Was first on the scene of a head-on collision. Both drivers dead on impact. We walked up to both cars to see if we could help, but it was obvious they were dead. A couple of days later there was an article in the paper about it. And the girl was a teenager. So sad. I got chills down my back and felt like throwing up. Twice. The first time, I was living in a major city and a pedestrian was apparently run over during the night. His body landed in front of my home, 2 houses down from where he was hit. The second time, in another town, there was a dead man lying in my street. It was determined he was fighting with another guy and they were chasing each other through the streets. The deceased was stabbed. I'm not sure if this counts, but I was walking to school, elementary, one day like 8 AM. I'm between 9 and 11 yo. Past a 3-story building and there was a body hung off the side. Turns out dude shot his wife then hung himself from his balcony. No one got there soon enough to deal with it before all the kids walked by and saw. Even by after school he was still there, but they covered him with a blanket. Fun stuff. I'll see if I can find the news report.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.